So extremely delighted to host Pushpa Kurupji on our platform, Transliterature series, with a new book, Gods Dancing Among Men, The Mystical World of Theyyams of North Malabar. Pushpa is a history buff, though she really hated, I think, history in the childhood. And she's a big travel enthusiast. She left a very, very successful corporate career to pursue her passions. So that's a rarity, and many congrats to you for taking up such a bold decision. Welcome, Pushpa, on our 139th episode under Trends Literature series. It's such a pleasure to have you back with us.
Thank you, Neeta. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you once again.
So, how does it feel to be back with us?
Great. I think you've been doing a wonderful job, and you're one of those persons really committed to the industry of letters,
Yeah.
So I'm really very impressed.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to hear such motivating words from you. So, what have you been doing since the last time we spoke? I remember we spoke on a wonderful book that you did, Power of Women, and we heard such great stories from you in that episodes. Our viewers have really fond memories of the session we had with you. So, what have you been doing since then?
I have been, I have been writing a bit, and then I have these work assignments in between that I have to handle. So,
And of
I've
course,
been back in the industry, training and
okay.
consulting and all that as well. But I was also writing another book, which I've also just finished. So
Lovely.
hopefully, God willing, it will be out in a few months.
Oh my God. So we look forward to that one too. You know, your new book, Gods Dancing Among Men, The Mystical World of Theyyams of North Malabar, it goes deep into the rich history of Theyyam, which explores its roots, its relevance in contemporary belief and worship. So how did you really get interested in this topic? I know it's an unusual topic, but yes, a story which needed to be told, and you've done it in such a wonderful book. It's like an encyclopedia. I think anyone who wants to refer back to this art form will go back to your book. It's such a priceless treasure for everybody now. So, how did you really get interested in this topic? And what inspired you to explore the mystical world?
Well, it's a fascinating topic.
Yes, no doubt.
It has been on my mind for a very long time. But frankly, I didn't think, I had the, say, bandwidth to be able to deal with the subject. So I did a lot of research over the years. And, because I hail from Kannur district, which is the hotbed of the Theyyam ritual.
Yes.
I had been seeing these performances from childhood, but then as a child, you see it quite differently.
Yes.
There would be Theyyams in the family also, and they visit your house. So at that time, the kids would be advised to run and hide when the Theyyam comes. They would say, "Hey, Pottan Theyyam is coming. You hide." It was like that, initially. And then I grew up outside Kerala, so there was a long gap when I didn't really see any performance. And then when I started living again in Kerala, in Trivandrum actually, again I got to see these events and seeing them, how they jump into the fire and they come out with little or no damage. It was very it set me thinking, like, what's going on? Is it really God is visiting, or it's a human endeavor, like that? So that's how the research part started, and then finally it resulted in this book.
Your fascination when you were a child about hymns, at this stage, I still have the same fascination. But through your book, one comes to know so much. You've delved so much into it. But do you think, I mean, you know about this, and I would like to know, as a person who doesn't know much about hymns, only through your book, I think I will even read it more deeply. I still have to finish the book. Is Theyyam a form of artwork, of folk art? I mean, though you do say that Theyyams are living gods, they're cherished and they're revered by the people of North Malabar. So, and their blessings hold a lot of immense significance. That's what you say in the book. So, do you think it's a folk art?
I would say it is primarily a spiritual tradition, and the art, of course, it's a folk art, but the art is secondary. A lot of people, I don't know for what reason, maybe they don't want to connect it with religion, and so the term folk art is often preferred by the the powers that be. But
Hmm.
I think it's more, it is a ritual, it's a tradition, it is spiritual, it is connected to religion. It has a link with the temples and what we call the carve, which is a kind of a mini temple without the edifice and the, all the paraphernalia that you find in a temple. It's basically like something under a tree and a kind of a family grove and things like that. That's what we call a carve. So the Theyyam originated probably in these. It's possible the Theyyams were there even before the temples came to Kerala.
Oh.
Because after the Brahmins came, the Aryanization process, then the temples came. But probably these were there even before. It's a kind of a primitive form of worship. It is a form of worship. See, the people believe that the Theyyams are really gods. For the duration of the ritual, they are seen as gods. They are worshipped as such. Their blessings are taken. The troubles are shared. In fact, the two things I would say which is very special about the Theyyam tradition, the first is that it's it's a living God in the sense the God is among you. You can touch it. I'll say it because God is neither male nor female nor animal. All are there. And there are, the Theyyams have different caste also. There are Brahmin Theyyams, there are Kshatriya Theyyams, there are all the Dalits. In fact, for the cover of the book, I've chosen to put the Korati. Korati literally means gypsy. So it's a Dalit and a woman.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a Dalit and a woman.
What a beautiful.
So there nowhere God is male, like in some other religions. So it is male. In fact, the Bhagavatis have a lot of importance. And we'll come to that later. The second other thing I wanted to say is that what really marks, distinguishes this Theyyam tradition is its staying power.
Yes.
It's very primitive, but it has, it prevails intact. There could be changes, but that which is natural in any social process. There could be changes, but the Theyyam tradition remains. It has overcome in spite of, in the late 18th century, there was the attack of the Mysore Sultans, which actually demolished many practices which were seen as typically Hindu. Then the British took over from them after about 25 years. Tipu Sultan was killed. The British came, the whole of Malabar came into the hands of the British. And they also said that this is all superstition. They, in fact, they called it devil dancers, the Theyyams. The term they used to describe the Theyyams was devil dancers. And they also said this is all mumbo jumbo, all sorts of things. Then there were the social reformers like Sri Narayana Guru, later the communists. So they all said that this is all rubbish and, everybody tried to damage the tradition in their own way. But still it has survived and it still goes strong, which I think it's quite, fascinating that it can happen this way. In fact, there was a stage in the second half of the last century when it almost appeared that it was dying out. In fact, about 10 years ago, I wrote an article also, like, without sponsors, without support, this may not survive. In fact, there's supposed to be like 450 Theyyams at one time. Like now we have only around 100. So many have disappeared. So there is an extinction process also at work.
So who's the oldest living Theyyam right now?
Probably, I don't know. You see some similar things in Africa and all that. But I mean, I haven't studied it well enough to be able to give an opinion about whether there's a connection or not.
But it's an
There's
amazing,
a similarity in appearance.
but it's an amazing art form. Everyone gets very, very excited about whenever there is a performance and they want to know more. And I think through your book, they will tend to get their curiosity sorted. So what makes the Theyyam cult different from other spiritual streams? I mean, how do you think it's different? I know
It's similar. It's different from temple worship in the sense, if you ask me if it's Hindu, yes, it is Hindu, but it's possibly linked with Dravidian, practice before the Aryanization process happened, and then some sort of a grafting has happened. An assimilated form has come out. So many of the Bhagavatis, they will say that it is Durga or Kali or Parvati, like that. And some of them are linked to Shiva. They say that it comes out of the third eye of Shiva. like that. So there's some connection is made. So then the Brahmins are also happy, others are happy, and then it just goes on. Another interesting thing about this is that, see, you can see your God in front of you. You can touch its hand and, talk to it, and then it will give you, tell you some things. Often it guesses a lot of things about you. I don't know how they do it, but a lot of things that they say happen to be right. And then they will console you if you're sad about something, if you've had a tragedy. They will predict the future.
Oh my God.
They will bless you. Like if you say, I don't have a child, then they will say something,
Oh my God.
so like that. So people, next time they have a child, then they will sponsor the Theyyam performance in their homes.
Oh.
There are typically Theyyams, some Theyyams are location specific. They can only perform in their kaava, their temple. And there are some that can come to your house. You can just call them, like Muttapan. Muttapan is global. He can go anywhere in the world. Okay, there is a Parasinikadavu Muttapan temple in Kannur, which is very famous. And a lot of people of all religions also, they come there to worship. And interestingly, the priests are not Brahmins, they are Theyyas, which is actually a trader caste like Vaishya. Yeah, so it's quite okay for everyone. Nobody wants the priest to be Brahmin. So, there's a lot of bridging the communal barrier, which this, the tradition does, because most of the performers are from the lower caste. And the fact that, the higher caste people could actually touch them, they would touch them, and all that was there, like today we don't have these issues, but before, when the caste system was very, very rigid, still for the duration of this ritual, everybody worshipped the Theyyam as God, even though otherwise he would have been an untouchable. You will not allow anywhere near the house. And, that kind of time, it was able to, in fact, many of the things that the Theyyams talk about, they will condemn this caste barriers, and it was a kind of attempt to transcend the barrier. So the protest, everything would come out.
After before writing the book, I'm sure, and now after writing the book, yes, all your doubts, all your whatever you wanted to know has got cleared, and that's how everybody is getting their doubts cleared through your book. But
I
and you
wouldn't
also,
say that, Neeta, sorry. I wouldn't say that. I don't have all the answers. I
okay,
try to find.
but for us, for the uninitiated, I think we have nearly all the answers to your book. And you also mentioned and that Mr. E.P. Narayanan Perunan, he's the Theyyam performer who really guided you. And his name and his photos really appear a lot of times in the book. So would you like to talk about that? Because many of the challenges I'm sure you faced while writing the book, he's the person who got it cleared, who kind of really helped you. He's a Padam Shri Theyyam dancer. So would you like to talk about him? Because I'm sure he has it's a big role to play in the making of this book.
Yeah, just last month he was conferred the Padma Shri.
Yeah.
In fact, when I started writing the book, I asked some friends from Kannur to find me a person who can act as a guide, who will clear my doubts and who will be able to give me a better perspective. So they did a lot of searching and they came and introduced me to this person. And I found that, he's not the highly educated type or anything, but I found he had that curiosity. He had a research mentality. If I asked a question, to which he didn't know the answer, he would find it out somehow. He would ask a lot of other persons and he would come back to me and say, look, it's like this.
Fantastic. You were blessed to have him. I mean, if somebody can do so much of field work
really.
and come
He's
back to you.
absolutely, like, all his life, he's in the late 60s. All his life, he has dedicated himself to this profession. He's exceptionally good at what he does. And he's very, very humble, unassuming. And he is a person who deserves this award 100%. In fact, it's the first time in history that a Theyyakaran has been conferred the Padma Shri. So it's a big recognition for all other performers of this ritual.
Very right. And he definitely has even I think in your acknowledgement and everywhere, you do mention this. And one thing which really strikes you is the obviously the costume and everything. So would you like to talk about it? How did you really go about capturing the vibrant and intricate details of Theyyam costumes, and of course the wild dances that you've captured in your book? So that
Well, I went to all the performances, so I saw them actually. Then I
okay,
would look at, they have, before the performance starts, many of these masks, the costumes, they sit and make it over there. They
okay.
stitch the flowers, yeah, sometimes Ixora flowers, red. They have to be fresh.
Oh
So
my
they will
God.
get these things, they make it, they link it. So they will be stitching, painting, all in that same compound. So if you sit there and watch, you can see everything, how it goes. Then they have, some of them have this very tall headgear,
Hmm.
which is
Okay.
really a challenge to wear because these bamboo poles, all kinds of stuff. They tell me, in fact, Narayan Perunan was telling me that previously there was one Theyyam where they had that entire one full palm tree
Hmm.
would be used as a headgear. So imagine the weight that one man has to carry on his shoulders.
So how much time does it take for a Theyyam dancer to get ready?
It's a very difficult and painful process. Only when you see it, you realize, how problematic it is. And some of them raising the headgear also, you have to watch,
Oh
because
my.
that three or four people with bamboo poles on four sides, they are kind of lifting that up. And the people who do that, even the public who comes to volunteer for that, they also have to go through that vrata and all that, 41 days penance,
Hmm.
abstinence. So many things are connected with it. It's not that you just come along and then you lift it.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
not like that. So
The entire rituals take place. But I'm sure it is also a very, very expensive process. I mean, how do they get finance? What is happening in that front? How is this community, as you say, from 450 to 100 hymns now? So who's really behind all this to kind of, the
So
community
in
of
the
the
past,
dancers?
you always have royal sponsors. Today, that's not there.
Yeah.
Without a sponsor, it's virtually impossible because it is so expensive and so much time they have to devote to this process.
Hmm.
In fact, because this is seasonal, a lot of people couldn't survive
Hmm.
just doing this. So they would have other day jobs.
Okay.
Some guy will be a carpenter, some guy will be working in the post office, something like that. And at this time, they take leave and they do it. Basically, how the financing works is that sometimes they are sponsored by temples, sometimes they are sponsored by individuals, and there are two things which we call, you know, prarthana kaliyatam, which is actually prarthana or nircha, we call it, which is an offering to a temple or a deity. So when you pray, you make that offering that I will do this performance.
Hmm.
Then you pay whatever they ask you. That's how it is. Then these in different castes have obligatory rituals in some kava or some temple, where every year at that season, that time, they have to do it. So there they cannot really bargain. They are not supposed to bargain. Whatever the temple or the administrators give them, they are supposed to accept it. That's how it is. But there'll always be nurture. So today, they're
Hmm.
able to survive very well. If there's one hooligan, say, in a particular event, which is what they have to do as an obligatory one, you find some 8 or 9 others which are prarthana.
Hmm.
So instead of one hooligan, you have 10 hooligans. So then that way, they earn.
Hmm. And I
Now it's
suppose,
actually gaining in popularity. It's getting more and more popular. And now, recently this film came, Kantara, in
okay.
Kannada. So
Yeah.
suddenly people have realized, oh, this is what it is. Because
Yeah.
it's there not only in North Malabar, it's also there in Dakshin Kannada, the southern part of Karnataka.
And I think also because Mr. Peruvan got this award, he's the Padam Shri, I think that will also it'll go a long way in the, promotion of this art
Yeah,
form. And I'm sure,
popularizing.
I've noticed that there is a lot of inclusion of animals in them performances, and which is quite intriguing. So maybe could you kind of elaborate on the significance of incorporating animals and how it adds to the overall experience? You've watched so many performances, so how's the aura at that moment of time, and why the inclusion of animals? Yeah.
I think this has its root in the Hindu tradition,
Okay.
which believes that there is divinity in every creature. whether it's a tree or a snake. Kerala is a place where snake worship is predominates. So there are a lot of snakes. We call Naga, Kanni, this, that, like that. Then there are monkeys, which is linked to the Ramayana, Bali. So that duel between Sugriva and Bali, that will be enacted.
Okay.
And, there is a crocodile. There is even a bee. So it's, mammals, insects, reptiles, everybody is included. So the different, every theme is different. Every one has a different story. There's always an anecdote behind every theme. It's very, very interesting. There will be similarities, there will be differences. Some will be very similar to another one. But, there are stories like Shankaracharya and the Chandala, that story. All that it comes in the Theyyams. In fact, the Pottam Theyyam means the dumb god. The Theyyam itself is a word which comes from Devam, Dev.
Okay.
It's a distortion, a colloquial way of saying Devam. So it means God.
Okay. And it gets us to the point of the relevance of fire in all the performances. I mean, there's a fearless interaction with fire, and it is highlighted as one of the most astonishing aspects of Theyyam, I would say. So how did you really witness and document these daring performances, and what insights did you really get when you were watching the practice or perhaps watching the performance? So how did you really document? So, because it's definitely a very
Quite a few of
important.
these things, they walk on coals. They actually jump into the fire.
Oh my God.
A whole lot of wood is accumulated, which probably costs lakhs of rupees. And then it is burnt down all through the night. They'll start burning it in the evening. By the early hours, like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., the whole thing is a huge lump of coals. It's called meleri. And then the Theyyam will fall, like especially the Thi Chamundi. It will fall on that meleri 101 times. It's very hard to believe. And when you ask them, they will say they don't know. I say, how do you do it? And they will say that I don't know. Only God knows. Yeah. And then, in fact, I tried going and standing near the meleri to see how near I can get. And when I'm like 15 feet or so away, I feel my face is on fire.
Oh my God.
I'm not able to stand more than a couple of minutes, And that same place that the Theyyam is going and falling on it and being dragged away by the other people, again, they will go and fall on it. Again, they are dragged away. It's amazing. I have no words. I cannot give an explanation. I've asked many doctors. They all have their own way of looking at it. Some people say physiologically it's possible. The exposure is only a few seconds. They are dragged back. But when I realize that I'm not able to stand even 15 feet away, I don't know.
Very right, because it definitely remains one of the most astonishing aspect of him, their interplay with the fire and everything. And the book also mentions somewhere I read that astonishing abilities of him practitioners for clairvoyance, prophecy. So can you perhaps share any specific anecdote or experiences that stood up during your writing of this book, during your exploration and research?
And a lot of people who told me that the diseases have been cured. They prayed for a child. In fact, a cousin sister of mine, she said her daughter didn't have a child for many years, and they prayed to so many temples and gods, and nothing happened. And she was like around 40, something like that. They'd just given up. And then one day she saw a Theyyam performance in a neighborhood, another house, and then she prayed to the Muttappan. Muttappan is the same Parsinikada temple which I told you about. And the very next year, her daughter conceived, and now she has a nice girl child. So they believe that it is Muttappan who gave them the child. So there are innumerable cases like this, any number of cases. See, if it's not there, the people will not believe in the Theyyam so much. For the people of Malabar, the Theyyam is as valid as the idol in the temple. And then if it's a question of scientific inquiry and you're just going to say compare and all that, if you can believe that an idol in a temple is God, why can't you believe that this moving, acting, dancing Theyyam is God? Why not? God can come in any form.
Very, very right. Then as far as God is concerned and everything, there are also Mapila Theyyams. And these are the Muslim characters incorporated into Theyyam ritual. So how will you like to describe that? I mean, that seems like a very
Most of these
important point.
Muslim characters, the Muslim characters mostly in Kasargod district, which
Okay.
is the northernmost bordering Karnataka.
Hmm.
Now, in Kerala's history, the Muslim Arab traders were there even before Islam, before the birth of Islam. They were there living in communities. So when Islam came to Arabia, they brought it here also. And then, their families would be Muslim and all that. So the very fact that, the communal harmony, how the
Yes.
Hindus, Muslims, and there were Christians and Jews also.
Okay.
They all lived together. Yeah. Jews also first came to Kerala very, very early. Okay. I mean, most of them used to say that they have mostly gone to Israel now. Hardly anybody is left. But there are a lot of them in Kochi, Kodungalur, some places. So they believe that when the temple was destroyed by the Romans, first century AD, they migrated to Kerala. And this was probably one of the few places in the world. In fact, India is the only place which does not discriminate against or harass people of other religions and allow them to practice their religion. So they were peacefully living here until Israel was formed. After 1948, some of the people slowly, they moved to Israel. Christians also, they say that St. Thomas, the apostle, came in 52 AD. And he started these churches and all. And so from that time, there are Christians also. So everything, all the religions have blended together. In fact, some years ago, I was told that, in the Vatican, they have a process of canonization of these individuals. Somebody is declared as a saint and all that. So for those rituals, usually people from all the countries, they go. Invariably, people go from Kerala. Once I also went. Another friend of mine told me that once the Pope asked them, when they met the Pope, one of those Christians, they said that we find people from Christians from all over the world come here, but it's only from your place that we find Muslims and Hindus, people of other religions are coming. Why is it, they wanted to know. So they said, this is how we celebrate all the festivals. Everybody participates in everybody else's festival. So similarly, this Muslim Theyyams, what is said is that some story is woven into it, which includes a Muslim. And there are many temples where they say for their annual ritual, it's important to have a Muslim. At least one Muslim should be there. And they will call out, they will ask, is there any Muslim? And then that person will be asked to come forward and, he will have some role. So all these Muslim themes, they are also, the performers are male. I mean, the performers are male and Hindu.
Okay.
But there will be like, say, an Ummachi Theyyam. Ummachi is a Malayalam word for Muslim woman.
Okay.
So there is an Ummachi Theyyam. The Ummachi Theyyam's job is to, they dehusk that paddy using that mortar and this thing, they'll be like this, throwing it on the rice and all that. It used to happen when I was small.
Yeah.
That was invariably done by Muslim women. Don't ask me why, but they were the ones doing it. So there was some story. The story is that some Brahmin, he felt that the touch of the Muslim woman will pollute the paddy or something, and then he kills her, cuts off her head or something. And then she resurfaces as a Theyyam. So like that, the Muslim Theyyams have their role. Some of them will shout Allahu Akbar. They will do namaz. All that, mimicking all the activities. Yeah.
Oh my God, in the middle of everything, one has such massive communal harmony and fantastic. You've also talked about Mapila Ramayana. So would you like to talk about that?
There's a Mapila Ramayana also in Kerala, which is the Muslim version of the Ramayana with all the changes and everything. Yeah.
Imagine. This is amazing. People really need to know about this. Amazing. You also another question, since we have another 5-6 minutes left. What role do the diverse Bhagavati Theyyams and popular deities like Muttapan play in the hearts and belief of the people in North Malabar?
They live in the hearts of the people of Malabar. All of them. The Muchilot Bhagavati. There are a lot of mother goddesses. In fact, the number of mother goddesses is more than the number of male Theyyams. Okay, if you just count them, the mothers are more. So the very primitive tendency to worship the mother goddess continues in these traditions. In fact, Muchilod Bhagavati temples, I think in Kannur district alone, has more than 150. So every temple will have the Muchilod Bhagavati Theyyam. Okay. Then some of them, each Theyyam has a role, primary. If you want to have children, you pray to a particular Theyyam. If you want to overcome some disease, then there is another Theyyam. Earlier, many of them were connected with smallpox. Pudya Bhagavati, Vasuri Mala, like that. Vasuri actually means smallpox. So some of them were meant to eradicate smallpox. And there'll be very delightful little stories about how they made smallpox in heaven and how the gods got it and then how it was transported to earth. Very, very interesting stories. But basically, the goddess is supposed to save you from these illnesses. We need one for COVID as well.
I can make out you really enjoyed writing this book. I mean,
I did.
it's not only for the world, but even for yourself, as you said, that you were quite interested in Theyyam's story. Despite various external influences over the years, the sanctity of Theyyam tradition remains unblemished. So, can you discuss how the tradition has really withstood challenges and maintained its significance in contemporary times?
Neeta, I think anything that really survives, and across the march of modernity and all that, if any social phenomenon, if it needs to survive, it needs to have some intrinsic worth. Human intervention, of course, matters.
Yes.
But it should have some intrinsic worth to be able to continue. See, if everybody who prays to a Theyyam doesn't have his prayers answered, it will die a natural death.
So right. Absolutely.
So the fact that people believe, they believe why?
Yeah.
Because something of value.
Yes.
They find something of value in it. And of course, for the people of lower caste who were otherwise looked down upon, kept at a distance and all that, it's a kind of a redeeming factor. They're able to express themselves. See, the Theyyam says a lot of, sometimes the language is strange, you don't get it, but they say a lot. They're free to say anything. So they will make fun of the people of the family, the upper caste. If somebody is very stingy, they will point out that he is stingy. Why you are a miser. Then the women of the house, the Korati, for instance, is served a meal before the lunch is served to the entire community. The Korati has to approve of the meal. She won't eat it actually, but she'll just touch everything with a stick. By the way, she will be served chicken curry in a coconut shell and all that. So she will touch everything with a stick. And finally, when she says it's okay, then only you can serve food for everybody else. So she will make fun of something. Why this is so hard? It's not nice. So it's a kind of a thing on the women of the family. Or suddenly she'll say, why there's no milk? You bring milk. Then they have to go running and bring that. So like that, it has the entertainment value. But Neeta, there's one thing also, there is a dark side to it, which we don't really want to emphasize so much. But there is the bloodletting, sacrifice, blood drinking even is also part of the tradition. So most of the performers, they believe that, at least you have to kill one rooster. Otherwise, the tradition is diluted. So they do that. The large scale killing is not there. And other bigger animals are not killed, just this. It's usually the rooster. So, anyway, we eat chicken, so why can't we kill it? Somebody has to kill it, If you extend all these logic, you cannot just say, okay, animal sacrifice is a big deal. I mean, nobody in the district sees it that way. They feel it's fine. People offer, actually, your offering to the temple will be a chicken. So everybody comes with one chicken and then gives it over there. And finally, they auction it. Previously, they used to kill each and every one. If they get 1,000 chickens, they will kill all the 1,000. The heads will be kept in the temple. The body part will be given to the family who has offered it. And then they will take it home and cook it, and it's a prasad.
Okay.
And there are temples also where, in fact, I've written a chapter on that.
Yes.
Thai Paradevada and chicken prasadam. So there are temples where the prasadam itself is a chicken and gram and all that. A very tasty dish, if I may say so. I like it.
Yeah, I can make on. We can keep on going on about this discussion. It's so wonderful, but everyone has to go through this book. It's wonderful. It's like an encyclopedia, I would say. It's like a coffee table book. Any last words that we missed out talking about the book? I know the cover of the book is so fascinating, and are the pictures. You've really got together such beautiful pictures inside, and I'm sure some rare ones. So, would you like to talk now? We have around few minutes left. I'd like to hear from you
I
as
would
much as I
say
can, actually.
Anita, I would say everybody, including you, should come to Malabar, come to Kannur especially to see these performances.
Yes.
Right now, the season is on. It will go
Okay.
on till about the month of May.
Hmm.
The last performance will be, in the Kalari Vadukal temple.
Okay.
That's the once that is over, then everybody stops. That's how it
Hmm.
is. Then it restarts in the month of October.
Hmm.
So for a good 6 months, the tradition is on. It's happening everywhere,
Oh my God.
and definitely a lot of them are worth seeing. Even if you're a non-believer, if you come as a tourist, just to see it, because it's quite a fascinating performance. And I did not say anything about the Theyyams. The
Hmm.
word Theyyam actually is Stotram. It's a derivative of the word Stotram. And it's a kind of an oral recitation in detail. For hours it goes on. It details the entire history of the Theyyam.
Okay.
Okay, the story is told so that the audience knows this is what this Theyyam is all about. So Totem is a very important thing. There are some which are very tragic and pathetic.
Hmm.
So the audience is moved to tears. So the story of Makam,
Hmm.
and then the story of Kadivanur Veeran. They are all very, heart-rending recitations, because eventually they get killed and betrayed and killed, that sort of a thing. Kadivanur Veeran is a Yoda. Veeran itself, Yoda warrior. He
Hmm.
travels from Kannur to some place in Coorg,
Hmm.
and in fact, Narayanan Peruvannan had traveled that entire journey. This
Hmm.
totem is like a travelogue. It mentions each and every place where he had gone.
Okay.
And some of the places now the names are not heard. So people had doubts whether these places really exist or it's fictional.
Hmm.
Mangat, where he starts from, that's very close to my ancestral house. And the ending is in Coorg. So apart from these, the places in between, many people didn't really know whether they existed. So he actually undertook that journey with his team. And he told me that he found each and every place actually existed. Some of them are very remote. There are some small villages and, like that. But they're all there.
Fantastic. I think everyone should read this book and then take a guided tour and visit all what you mentioned in the book. It'll be a really good exercise for everybody knowing about their culture, knowing about this rare art of Theyyams. Thank you so much for being on our platform. It's been such a big pleasure. I've enjoyed every bit of it talking to you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Neeta. Thank you, everybody. Come to Kannur
Yes.
and actually see the Theyyams.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Thank you, one
Right.
and all.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us today.